So this past year, my sister has spent it studying abroad at Loyola's Rome campus, the John Felici Rome Center. And in the winter, I got to go visit her with my family. We stayed in a little apartment just outside the city of Rome. It was a quick walk across the Villa Borghese to get into downtown Rome. And Rome is one of the most beautiful places I've ever been. The views that you could see, the natural culture of being in the street vendors, the restaurants, the food on every corner. There's just this little like oven, I guess you would say, and there's just roasting walnuts on it. And it's such a vibrant place to be, and it's very different from cities here in America. But one of the biggest workouts I've ever gotten was walking around Rome. I wear a Fitbit every day, and I had close to about 15,000 steps easily every single day, probably closer to 20,000, because we were just walking everywhere all over Rome, up hills, down hills, upstairs. They love stairs in Europe. Stairs are a huge thing. But just this huge like workout, because you don't think of it as like a workout when you're just doing it and you're walking around. And then you get back to the apartment and you'd be like, oh my gosh, I'm sore. Like my feet hurt, my shoulders hurt. Like, why am I so sore? And then you realize the fact that you just walked across an entire city. And just as much like the walking would hurt, like my back would start hurting or my hip would hurt, the views that you would get in Rome were just unbelievable. You would look out and you would just see this town. You would see the basilica, you would see St. Andrews, and just these amazing things. The Victor Emmanuel, that was something that was so intriguing to me about Rome, is you would just be walking and you would turn a corner and there's just a huge monument there. And it's just being really open-minded to how European culture and how Roman culture is so different from American culture. And even that, Roman culture is so different from other parts of Italy. Like, it's different from the northern parts of Italy. And seeing the way that these cultures shift, and really we didn't have any long layovers, and I'll talk about one of our layovers in the next post, but just this really like active part of being in a community. And like, yes, a lot of people drive and they ride their bikes, and it's very dangerous watching people drive in Europe, but it's just so active, and like just the general lifestyle is a lot more active than that here in America. And you have to be open-minded of that. When you're in another culture, you have to adapt to them. You can't just go parading around with your own culture. When you're in a foreign environment, you have to adapt to them and you have to learn with them. And that's a huge thing about like ordering in restaurants. And in Europe, you don't tip in restaurants because their waiters are paid a lot higher wages. And it's such a different culture that you get to see and you get to witness and be immersed in.